All right, your board exams are just around the corner, which means it's time for a super fast, super effective revision. Today, we are going to nail one of the most important chapters, sustainable development. We'll cover everything you need to know, from the key definitions to the case studies, so you can walk into that exam hall feeling totally prepared. So, let's jump right in.
So, at its core, this whole chapter is really asking one big question. What is the real cost of development? Yeah, we talk about economic growth all the time, but what's the hidden price? What are we doing to the environment, to society? And maybe most importantly, who is actually getting the benefits from all this so-called progress?
Okay, first up, let's tackle this clash between development and equity. This is a huge point for your exam. You have to understand why just looking at a country's income, its GDP, is not enough. It really doesn't tell the whole story, and in fact, it often hides some massive inequalities.
Okay, take a look at this income pyramid. This is a classic visual from your textbook, and you've got to know how to explain it. It shows the problem of inequities so clearly. You see that tiny top and that huge base? That base represents 135 million households that have been left behind even as the economy grew. This is the perfect piece of evidence to use in your answer when you're arguing that GDP growth is not the same as progress for everybody.
So if all that money didn't go to the people at the bottom, where did it go? Well, this chart tells you everything you need to know. It's pretty shocking, actually. Between 1996 and 2011, the wealth of India's billionaires just exploded, from 212 billion all the way to over 11,000 billion rupees. The takeaway is crystal clear. The new wealth wasn't spread around, it was concentrated right at the very, very top.
And this is what that economic gap looks like on the ground in real life. On one side, you have a place like Dharavi, a massive slum that's home to millions, and on the other, an exclusive neighborhood like Banjara Hills. Seeing them side by side like this really drives home the central challenge we're talking about. How do you get development and equity at the same time?
All right, let's switch gears to our second key concept, and listen up, because this one is a guaranteed question in your exam. I'm talking about the two main functions of the environment. You absolutely must remember these two key words: source and sink.
Think of it like this. It's pretty simple. The source function is the environment acting like a giant storeroom, giving us all the stuff we need to live and make things, our natural resources. The sink function is the environment acting like a giant garbage disposal and air purifier, cleaning up our mess by absorbing all the waste and pollution we create. Making this distinction in your answers will get you top marks.
So here's the big problem, the real crux of the issue. Our current way of doing things is putting a double whammy on the planet. We're overusing the source by taking resources way faster than they can grow back. And we're overwhelming the sink by dumping waste much faster than nature can break it down. And that, right there, is the very definition of unsustainable.
Now, you can't just state the problem, right? You need proof. You need evidence for your answers. So let's quickly run through 3 perfect case studies from your textbook that show the high cost of this unsustainable growth. Make sure you remember these examples.
First up, case study 1, groundwater depletion. The key fact to lock in your memory is that nearly a third of India is using more groundwater than nature can replace. The perfect example to mention in your answer is the state of Punjab. This is a textbook case, literally, of overusing the environment's source function.
Okay, case study 2, chemical pollution. The absolute key concept here is bioaccumulation. That's the idea that these poisons don't just disappear, they build up in the food chain. The classic Indian example is the pesticide endosulfan. The damage was so bad that the Supreme Court had to step in and ban it, saying that pollution violated the fundamental right to life under Article 21 of our Constitution. And for a little extra context, you can mention the book Silent Spring, which was the first big global wake-up call about this stuff.
And for our third case study, let's look at the human cost. This quote is from a person who's being displaced by the Sardar Sarovar Dam, and it is just so powerful. It really gets to the heart of the injustice, right? These huge projects are often built in the name of progress, but they sacrifice the homes and livelihoods of the poor for benefits that mostly go to other people.
So all of these problems, inequality, overusing the source, overwhelming the sink, they all lead us to one place, the solution. And guys, this next slide, it has the single most important definition in the entire chapter. Seriously, if you memorize only one sentence for your exam, make it this one.
And here it is. Sustainable development. Read it, write it down, learn it by heart. It's all about balance, isn't it? It's about meeting our needs today,
but doing it in a way that doesn't mess things up for the people who come after us, for future generations.
So, we've laid out the problem, and now we have the definition of the solution. So the next logical question is, how do we actually do it? Well, the textbook gives us some really powerful examples of what sustainable action looks like in the real world.
The CHIPCO movement is a total must-know for your exam. It's the perfect example of how regular people, in this case village women in the Himalayas, can be the leaders in protecting the environment. By literally hugging the trees to stop the loggers, they created this incredibly powerful symbol for grassroots, people-powered movements for sustainability.
And it's not just about protest, we also have practical alternative systems. Take organic farming. Remember that whole case study about pesticide pollution? Well, this is the direct answer to that problem. Instead of fighting against nature with chemicals, it works with nature, using natural methods to grow food, and that protects the soil, the water, and our health. All right, we are on the home stretch now. To make sure all of this sticks in your brain, we're going to do a rapid-fire revision of the top 10 points you have to remember from this chapter. Think of this as your ultimate last-minute checklist before you walk into that exam. Let's do this. Get ready to screenshot this if you want. Here are your 10 must-remember points. Number 1, real development has to include equity, not just GDP. 2, the environment source function gives us resources. 3, its sink function cleans up our waste. 4, groundwater overuse is a massive problem. 5, pesticides lead to that keyword, bioaccumulation. 6, your right to life, Article 21, includes a right to a healthy environment. 7, big dams like Sardar Sarovar cause huge social displacement. 8, the golden definition, sustainable development balances present and future needs. 9, the CHIPCO movement is your go-to example of people's action. And 10, tying it all together, equity is the foundation for real sustainability.
And to wrap it all up, here's a thought to take with you. This stuff isn't just a chapter in a textbook, right? It's about the world you're living in and the world you're going to inherit. So, as you finish up your revision, just ask yourself, what's one small thing I can actually do? Okay, that's it for this quick revision. You've got this. All the very best for your exam.